Hello and welcome to 5-in-1 Mayani Talks, where we recap this beautiful month of September in which we've discussed jewelry and expectation. Now I'm going to share with you today my 5 favorite facts, things that I was not consciously aware of but have become aware of in my journey through this particular topic. So first of all, I was not aware of just how much the traditional jewelry that we wear in our Indian culture, South Asian heritage, is influenced by patriarchal expectations. So how much of that luxury jewelry, particularly luxury jewelry, which we wear in a particular way for particular occasions, particular styles that we're encouraged to choose for those particular occasions and to be worn in particular ways, how much of all that is dictated by generations long ago who viewed women very much as beings, objects to be seen rather than heard. And so where these pieces of jewelry have been worn through time by several generations of very many, if not all of our families, these pieces have come to become a part of our celebration of our culture and our heritage. But the very beginning of that was the beginnings of that and origins of all of that arose at a time when women are not really valued as having opinions, as having desires, wishes, dreams of their own, and they were very much expected to perform certain roles that were benefiting the community around them, their families, and roles that they were encouraged to perform because they benefited someone else and were not necessarily roles that they would have chosen to freely perform. Now, of course, it's difficult to make that distinction because if you've grown up in families where very much the love and affection you're shown is conditional, and you're shown a lot of that affection and praise and love when you perform in a certain way and are in a certain way, then you may find it difficult to separate what part of you is performance from what part of you is authentically you, and what actions you're actually taking out of a sense of duty versus which ones you're taking because you truly freely want to do them. So that's the first one, and that then has led me into fact number 2, which is discovering just how beautiful it is for women to create for women, because by doing so, even if we are creating pieces of jewelry which echo traditional art forms, what we're doing is adding the voice of women to our pieces. So we are essentially shifting that narrative away from us wearing pieces to celebrate heritage and tradition steeped in a narrative of women being undervalued, to suddenly transforming that narrative to becoming one in which women are actually valued, they're heard as much as they're seen, and women celebrate each other's voices in a beautiful way, empowering way, because women know truly what it is to be a woman, particularly when you have a designer who is from your cultural background. If you're from an Indian background, having an Indian female designer create for you brings with that the awareness that she has of what it is to be in your shoes as far as possible. So creating pieces for you that really voice concerns that not only are concerns that you may have in your life and things that you're becoming aware of that you don't feel are right or would like to put right in some way, but they're very similar to the things and ideas and beliefs that she may very well hold herself, and essentially together you're weaving a brand new narrative for yourselves, for the women of your culture, in which you can celebrate your tradition and your heritage without being tied to narratives that continue to have those energies of oppression and sort of, if you like, chaining women and enslaving them. Fact number 3, of course, when women artisans create for women, they create from a place of joy, a place of a true creativity. They're not really looking in so much as male designers typically do. They're not so much looking to achieve symmetry, perfect symmetry. They're not necessarily looking to achieve a certain wow factor in terms of having very many expensive elements or materials used in their artwork. They're actually looking very much at not only creating from a point of view of joy and creating something that's beautiful, but creating something that a woman can truly feel beautiful in. So something that's lightweight, something that's comfortable to wear, something that's actually going to embrace that woman and not only accentuate her beauty from a feminine perspective. That's important as well, because where jewelry has historically been created through the male lens, which typically sees women as objects of desire, objects of performance, you know, sparkly jewels. They're basically largely viewed as objects of desire. That's how women are typically viewed in the stereotypical male lens. And so it's shifting away from that. When women create from women, they're creating pieces that truly accentuate a woman's beauty from the place of being a woman, from what it is to be a woman, because they identify with that journey and they can capture that in a way that truly reflects that woman's inner voice as much as accentuating her external beauty as well. Fact number 4, when women create for women from a place of joy and they start to weave heritage into these pieces, as I've already touched on a little bit lightly, by doing so, we not only shift narratives that we no longer find ourselves connecting with, but we also find a new way of connecting with our heritage, because that's what we want to do when wearing traditional pieces. We want to connect ourselves with our heritage, but it's doing that in a new way, which is much more meaningful, much more liberating. It's no longer associated with the idea of trying to communicate wealth, status, power, prestige, that you're a married woman, unmarried woman, fertile, you know, you're not trying to have any of those labels associated with the pieces you're wearing, because the pieces you're wearing, whilst they are capturing heritage, they're not traditional in the sense of being strictly worn in a specific way or having strict rules as to when and where you wear them, which are associated with many traditional pieces of jewelry, these rules. And fact number 5, when women create for women, when the materials are chosen, I know for me personally as an artisan, when the materials are actually chosen, they're chosen with a lot of thought and care taken to select materials that not only honor a woman in terms of her right to be comfortable in what she's wearing, to feel like she's wearing luxury, so we're looking for high quality materials, but also looking for materials, in my case, each material is picked out to weave together her story. So what ends up being created is very much a unique piece that will never be replicated again, never created again. So essentially what you've done is captured the essence of what it is to be that individual woman in the form of jewelry. And I think that's important, because where women for so long have been identified with labels that are generic, very general, they kind of take away their sense of individuality. It's sort of almost you're not supposed to be individual, you're supposed to conform. And we don't just experience this as women. All individuals experience this at some point in their lives, where they're encouraged to conform and hide away their individuality. I think it's very important to remember the individuality that we all possess, our individual personality, individual quirks, whether it's physical or inner features that we can hold. All those individual features and characteristics of ours actually are incredibly important when it comes to us being part of the connected whole that we all are. So yes, we're all part of a beautiful big community, and that's very important to remember, that we're part of a bigger community. We're not just individual and, you know, on our own path, but at the same time that whilst we are part of this bigger community and we have a role to play within that bigger community, we do have our own individual voices, and that individual unique touch that we bring to the whole community is a very beautiful and special thing to be celebrated, because without that we would be losing some of our experience as a community, would be losing a certain perspective that only that individual brings, a certain flair, a certain authenticity that only that person can bring. So I hope you enjoyed today's Mayani Jewelry Talks, Mayani 5-in-1 Mayani Talks. If you enjoyed it, please do hit the like button below. Of course, I welcome you to subscribe and join me on this journey of discovering more about jewelry and how it is not only a form of adornment, but it goes so much deeper than that, and why it's so important for us to be conscious in our jewelry choices when it comes to making choices for jewelry that truly do not only reflect our values and our heritage, but equally they are pieces that are created to do that in a way that we want to moving forward for the future that we want to build. And so I welcome you to share with me your thoughts below on what you've thought of this month's topic of discovery, exploring jewelry as expectation, and whether you have actually ever considered jewelry as being so heavily tied to expectations of how you wear it, when you wear it, why you wear it, and what style you're supposed to wear, particularly when it comes to wearing traditional pieces for traditional occasions and events. As always, thank you for joining me, and remember, because your jewelry should always be more than just an afterthought. Thank you. Join me soon.